Lithium's a kind of dirty word at the moment. A lot of companies struggling, there's a lot of new entrants thinking of coming in should the price recover. Forecast suggests it's not going to. Shareholders a little bit disillusioned. How are you adjusting your strategy given the change in the market since when you started to today? What's the mindset here? What are you talking about? What's keeping you awake at night? And what are you doing about it? If you're watching this video, you're probably trying to work out if you can make money investing in the lithium space. Watch this video and find out. Also, can you click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this one. We talked today to Jerko Zuvela. He's the MD of Argosy Minerals. They're a lithium company based in Argentina and listed on the ASX. We talked to him about the lithium market. We also talk about the Argentine economy and what it's going through at the moment and how it's affecting them, plus the PEA numbers. Do they need updating? Also, Mitsubishi has come on board as a potential strategic investor, and we find out if that's going to be possible, and if so, when. And we discuss the financing that they're going to require for the build of their 2,000-ton plant. If you want to look at these topics or similar, look in the description below, click on the relevant timestamp, and that'll take you to that part of the video. In the meantime, let's find out what Jerko had to say. Hi Jerko, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks very much for your time today.
Brilliant, brilliant. So look, lovely to talk to you. We're very keen to talk to battery metals companies at the moment. It's very topical. I want to find out a little bit about you. So can you give us a 1-minute summary on the business, and we'll get stuck into it?
Yeah, Argosy Minerals is focused on its Rincon Lithium project in Argentina in the Salta province. We've gone about it in a slightly unconventional way, whereas we've gone to produce a pilot plant to produce lithium carbonate product. And we've been doing that over the last 2 years, where we've been in Argentina and really pushing hard to achieve these milestones over the last couple of years, as stated. And also we've recently acquired a lithium brine project in Nevada as well. So we're very much focused on the Rincon project, but also adding in the US project as an option down the track as well.
Fantastic, thank you. So let's talk about the recent acquisition in Nevada. Tell us a little bit about that. Why have you done that? And what's the problem you're trying to solve by doing that?
No problem to try to solve. I think what we looked at it for was another potential brine project in a world-class jurisdiction, which Nevada is. And further to that, I guess, as I mentioned in that quick summary, our expertise is very much in chemical processing. Many people think the lithium industry is very much a mining game, but given we produce an end product, a lithium carbonate or potentially lithium hydroxide, they're very much chemical products. And that's where our processing expertise is via our local partner, Pablo Eloralde, who is a former director of processing and technology at FMC's operations in Argentina. So with that background and with that knowledge and the fact that we've gone and produced battery quality lithium carbonate to date so far in our pilot plant in Argentina, we figured another project to take on that Argosy strategy to fast track development of projects was a good option for us, given the fact that the current vendors weren't able to develop the project or advance the project. We were able to pick it up very cheaply, and therefore we thought, a cheap acquisition, a cheap entry point, a low risk opportunity, and if we can do something with it that takes the project further, given it's within 4 kilometres of Silver Peak's Albemarle Silver Peak operation, the only lithium carbonate production operation in North America, we thought it was a good location, adding to our experience and expertise that maybe we can do something with it in the future.
Right. So, people don't tend to sell their good assets, right? So why were they a seller at this time? Is it because the state of the lithium market, they didn't have the expertise, they didn't have the cash? Why are they sellers?
They IPO'd off this project, Lithium Consolidated, back 3 years ago. So I think they had limited funds. Drilling and associated works in Nevada, especially in that part of the world for that brine is not cheap, I guess. And I guess they were cognizant of spending all their money on one project, given they've got a few other opportunities. So, and they didn't do a lot of work on it. So, I don't think it's quite fair to say that they've given away a good project. We think we'll turn it into a good project. But, they very much gave away an early stage project to focus on other opportunities, I guess.
Right, okay. And so you decided to mitigate your risk by moving jurisdictions. I mean, you've got Argentina, you're now in the US, you're slightly safer jurisdiction, obviously, with what's going on in Argentina with regards to the politics and exchange rate, etc. Have you got enough money to develop that? I mean, what's your cash position at the moment?
Yeah, we raised just over $9 million in April this year. So we've still got, I think, as per the last quarterly, about $7.5 million Australian in the bank. So that gives us enough funds to be able to do a first stage of exploration at the Tonopah project in the US, which, based on the existing gravity works or geophysical works that have been done, we think, we don't have to invest too much into the ground to understand the potential, of the project as well. So again, low risk, without too much exposure to understand what might be there. And if we're lucky enough that we do find some good quality brine, as we've got obviously next door in the Albemarle project, that's when we start putting the Argosy strategy to it and look at a fast track development strategy.
And so what does fast track mean? I mean, in reality, is it permitted? I mean, what do you need to get in place, and how much cash are you going to need to actually move it to the next stage?
Just that first part of your query there. Fast track, I guess what we've made it out to mean is taking a project from very early stage, next to nothing in Argentina, to producing battery quality lithium carbonate within the space of a couple of years. Now, when you look at our peers, there's not a lot obviously in the South American space, and given that Albemarle or Silver Peak operation's been in operation for over 50 years, there hasn't been too many other companies progressing into lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide operations and production. Obviously, Orocobre is our main peer, and they've done that over the course of probably about 7 to 10 years. And obviously, we're not at their stage yet, but we think by proving the processing technology, which is the most critical part of the lithium business, prove your chemical process, prove your product. That means you can obviously fast track development to full commercial scale production at some point in the near future.
Right, but there's a couple of things there. So fast track, I appreciate you've done it in 2 years, and when you compare it to others before you, that's much quicker. But do you think other new entrants coming into the lithium space, should they wish to, have you got anything proprietary, as unique? Is it unique IP to you, or do you think other people will get into production quickly too going forward?
That is the challenge, and I think that's what's halted a lot of those companies that have gone into Argentina and South America in general, and probably North America around that Clayton Valley area. They all get to the stage where they do feasibility studies and they stop there. And I think the critical part is they don't have the chemical processing expertise to produce battery quality lithium carbonate product. Now, we've seen it in South America. You've had the big boys, POSCO's been there for a long time, Eramet's been there a long time, the Sentient Group's been there for a long time. These guys have been there well over 10 years and none of them are in production. So the chemical processing is very much the critical component of this business. And if you don't have that, you don't have that processing expertise, or a person that's been there and done that for numerous years, like our partner, Mr. Alaralde at FMC for 15 years, you just can't take a project to production. Okay, so it's not necessarily a proprietary technology. It's a case of there's very few people with the relevant experience and track record of doing it. That's the major barrier to entry. So just coming back to what you're doing in Nevada in terms of fast tracking that, I mean, $7 million is not a lot of money. You've got 2 projects now. What's your focus going to be? How are you going to spend that money? Because you're going to need to raise some money, presumably, at some point in the future too. Yep. So definitely our focus and priority and full commitment is still on the Rincon project. As I mentioned, we've constructed the pilot plant and we've got a sales agreement with Mitsubishi Corporation, RTM Japan, for the product from that pilot plant. And we've also just announced last week non-binding heads of agreement with Mitsubishi again,
Yeah, I do want to come on to that, but I just want to finish off in Nevada because it's a new thing. You've decided to do it. It is cheap, but you're going to spend some money and some time there, and I want to understand why you've done that. What's the thinking in terms of the strategy? Why Nevada? Why a new project? And how much time and effort are you going to put into this to take it to what point? What's the thinking?
In the short term, like I said, we expect to do some geophysical surveys, which won't cost a lot of money, less than $500,000. So we don't need to spend a lot of money to understand what we may have there. Once we know what we have there, then we can set our strategy up. But in the short term or the immediate term, it's really just going to be finding out what is there to then understand what we need to do thereafter. But like I said, without labouring the point, that is not a priority for us at the moment.
Okay. But you've made that conscious decision. The board or the management team has made a conscious decision. Part of your strategy was to diversify slightly. Appreciate where you can spend your time, but given the market, the lithium price is coming down. Forecasts are coming down. As low as 7,000 if you believe Morgan Stanley by 2021. So the market is challenged. So why go and spend money, time, and effort now on a new asset? What's the strategy? What do you think the end game is there?
Well, the end game is to replicate what we have done in Argentina and obviously what we are looking to do in Argentina. So given there's an existing operation within 4 or 5 kilometres, we think we can do something similar ultimately at our project in Nevada also.
And what is it that this nearby project is doing that you think is so good that you want to replicate what they're doing?
Like I said, it's the only lithium brine operation in North America producing lithium carbonate. They produce approximately 4,000 tonnes per annum from the project, and would be, given what we've done and what we're looking to achieve in the near term at Rincon, we think we can apply the same strategy and do the same at Nevada over the course of the next few years.
Are they making money?
It's very difficult to understand the financials of Albemarle, SQM, and FM's on live end at the moment. So, you don't keep an operation going for 50 years if it's not making money. So I presume they are making money. Obviously, they probably made more money prior to the price coming down. But, I presume there's not too much cost there besides the operating costs. So you'd think it'd be based on industry standards, that it should be a profitable operation.
Right, yeah. I get that they have been lowest quartile producers, but which helps. But as you say, perhaps don't necessarily understand the full economics there to be able to make that evaluation today. Okay, well, I'm not quite sure. I totally understand the logic of going and spending time and effort on the new asset, but you're going to make an evaluation and I guess come back to the market and tell them what you've learned, right? So let's move on to the existing operation. You've got a pilot plant, which is fantastic. As you say, you're producing. That's great. You've signed an offtake agreement with Mitsubishi, big company, well-known company. What was the point of doing that? I mean, offtake is an offtake. It's just an option, right? And given the market, there's a lot of lithium around. Was that the beginning of a strategic partnership, or is it just a pure offtake?
We'd like to think it's it's a strategic relationship. As I mentioned, for the pilot plant, we signed a sales agreement back in March with Mitsubishi. And prior to that, they'd been working with us to get to that point, for the previous 12, 15 months. So we've established a good long-term relationship with them. We've made it very clear, or I think the market has made it very clear, or the lithium market, that you do need a strategic partner to develop a lithium project. And the reason for that, obviously, is the limited funding options available. On the converse, or on the reverse, these large companies that we've seen enter into the lithium space want security of supply. So that's the trade-off. They're looking for long-term security of supply. We're looking for finance to build a project. And I guess these small baby steps that we're taking, given we've seen some, difficulties arise in the lithium market, as we saw with Nemaska earlier this year, and some others, it's very difficult to bring new lithium projects into production. And therefore, these baby steps, the pilot plant moving to the 2,000 tonne per annum plant, which we signed the HOA for last week, these are the steps to give comfort to these potential strategic partnerships.
Right. So I just want to clarify for your investors, because there's a lot of chat and a confusion in chat rooms and forums and stuff around what it's going to mean. So Mitsubishi presumably have lots of options, lots of offtake agreements, because they are what they are. There's lots of them around. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give you the money to build the plant. So can I just ask a question directly? Have you spoken to them or given them indication that that's what you would like from that relationship?
We've been very direct with them. Their Japanese counterparty, Toyota and Toyota Tsusho, have done the same thing with Orocobre in the past. So we're using that as a guide, what we'd like to achieve with Mitsubishi RTM in the long run as well. So very much a comparable situation to reference, and we're hopeful that we can move along that same sort of pathway.
Okay, and have you got any sort of sense of the, how much money you're looking for and what type of money, and what would Mitsubishi's contribution be to that?
In terms of our Capex funding, we did a PEA and released that back late last year, which outlined $140 million Capex cost for the full 10,000 tonne per annum commercial operation. And we've also released information on this interim step, the 2,000 tonne per annum plant will need about a $14.3 million US Capex requirement to construct that. Now, that's a little bit lower than what we initially required, but that's because we've already invested in the evaporation ponds. We've built enough evaporation ponds. Currently 38 hectares are in operation, which can produce enough brine lithium concentrate to produce 2,000 tonnes of lithium carbonate product from the plant per annum.
So let's talk about that. So the PEA came out late 2018. Presumably, what numbers were you using for that? Because obviously lithium price was very different from what it is today. So the IRR, the NPV, it's all changed. So have you reassessed that?
No. So obviously a lot of those numbers will come down because we use Benchmark Minerals as our price forecasters, and they set a price of $13,000 per tonne. Obviously, it's a lot lower now, so we need to revisit that, and that's the reason, I guess, early this year, we made the conscious decision to turn our attention away from moving to full-scale production or an operation to this intermediate step of 2,000 tonnes again. Just a smaller step, lower risk, less Capex requirement, hopefully a little bit easier to achieve than waiting around for that $140 million to come through the door.
Right, and so that you hope that gets you into some sort of cash flow. It won't get you into positive cash flow, presumably.
No, we expect it to be positive cash flow. We expect our cost to be reasonably a little bit higher than what it would be for a full commercial scale operation. But even at these lower prices, we think we can make some good profits.
Okay.
On the stage 2,000 tonne per annum plant.
Okay, and that's based off of the pilot plant numbers. I mean, can you give us an update on how that's performing? Because it's been sort of running for a while now.
The pilot plant's only been running for about a month and a half now.
Yeah.
The first month was just getting things going in a continuous manner, ironing out a few of the little issues that you do have whenever you start a plant, and then we've been producing lithium carbonate product. That's still in its infant stages, but we expect over the next short while to produce at a consistent rate that we can feed into the sales agreement that we have. But at the same time, given our limited human resources, we still need to keep fully focused on that 2,000 tonne per annum plant. That's where we think our best bang for buck is.
Right.
The pilot plant really is to be able to show the customer that we can produce a consistent quality battery grade product and use the pilot plant for that means. The pilot plant was never really set up to be a continuous production operation, but given the state of the market, we've felt that that's been able to assist us to procure good quality customers and obviously show the market that what we're capable of.
Right, so I think technically that's going to show the market what you're capable of. Can we talk about the economics around that? Obviously, if you can, tell us what you think you're going to be able to do, because you've got $7.5 million in the bank, you've got some G&A obviously going on there, and some committed costs already. Of the 14.3 for the interim plant, how much are you going to go and need to raise to get that going?
Well, we'll need to raise the majority of that amount, if not the full Capex amount. Obviously, like you said, we don't want to be left with minimal funds in play. The existing funds can be used as a bit of a contingency if required, but we'd be looking to raise the full Capex amount, and that's what we're working on with various parties. Unfortunately, the lithium market is not what it used to be 18 months ago, where companies were making prepayments and so forth, so it's a little bit more challenging. But we're working as best we can to bring that money in under the most favourable circumstances for our shareholders, and try to avoid as much dilution as possible, but be able to bring a project into production. Okay. We're obviously very cognizant of some of the debt issues coming around with Australian lithium producers as well. So again, it's a fine balance to consider the best way to fund this intermediate plant.
So, yeah, I mean, it's very challenging to work out how to do this, because your existing shareholders will be like, we're anti-dilutory, of course. You're cognizant of getting yourself into a position where this plant will produce, you'll be able to sell, but is it going to be enough to be able to pay back any debt that you may be able to secure? I get it. It's a tough one. It's really, really tough. But in ASX, lithium's a kind of dirty word at the moment. It's like there's a lot of people struggling, a lot of companies struggling at the moment. There's a lot of new entrants thinking of coming in should the price recover. Forecasts suggest it's not going to. Shareholders a little bit disillusioned. I mean, how are you managing this? You're trying to run a business, but you got to talk to investors. What are you saying to them?
Yeah, very hard. It's been very challenging, and perhaps that's why we're still in a position we're in at the moment. We haven't secured that funding yet. We were lucky enough, we did a good capital raise, like I said, a couple of months ago, to at least give us some options. Perhaps another reason for that optionality in Nevada as well, to be able to move that project forward for little or minimal funds. But we feel very confident that we can go and raise that 2,000 tonne per annum Capex funds in the near term. And once we get that, obviously we're very committed to get up and running on that. We're obviously started procuring and looking at solutions for plant and equipment. But how do you manage and keep shareholders' expectations high? Very difficult. I guess what we keep selling to our shareholders is that we think we are one of the very few lithium production companies that will get into production, and that we do have the necessary skill set and expertise to take it all the way through. And I guess the light at the end of the tunnel, or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, really is the fact that we can get into production. We will be hopefully a producing company, and you can see with some of our peer comparisons, whether it's Orocobre or the bigger guys, there is a very large gap or a market share that could be created if and when we can do that. So the potential upside is still large enough to keep our shareholders reasonably satisfied. But obviously, it's very hard to achieve that at the moment, but that's obviously what we're aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, again, some data from Morgan Stanley forecasts. They're saying Argentina, Australia, and Chile could add as much as 500,000 tons of lithium into the market by 2025. That's double what it is today. That's a lot of new product coming in. It doesn't kind of bode well for the price. But if you can mine and process profitably, maybe it's not such a problem. And brines are well known for being cheaper to produce than a lot of the Aussie rock lithium. So how are you adjusting your strategy given the change in the market since when you started to today? It's a very different marketplace. What's the mindset here? What are you talking about? What's keeping you awake at night? And what are you doing about it?
Well, I think we've had to be dynamic, and we've had to be flexible, and like I said, we've gone down this intermediate step now of this 2,000 tonne per annum plant, and I think a $14.3 million capex is not insurmountable for a company our size, which is at the moment about a $95 million Aussie dollars market cap company. If worst case scenario eventuated, we think we can raise equity to do that. Obviously, that's not the ideal situation, but if we can have a hybrid of structures for financing that, we think that is a very much a near-term potential goal and something that is achievable. And that's where we've had to be a little flexible. At the same time, what's keeping you awake? Obviously, maximising shareholder returns, which means we think our best bang for buck is getting into production of 2,000 tonnes per annum. From the discussions we've had with various strategic groups, I think that will de-risk the project greatly. It will be a pathway to the full commercial scale of the project, the 10,000 tonnes per annum. And sometimes you have to take a step back to go 2 or 3 or 4 steps forward. And we think this intermediate step, secure the funding. Once we show that, again, in the knowledge that it's very difficult to do that, and there perhaps won't be as many companies around doing that at that point in time, the market opens up, and our strategic partner or partners can see what we've achieved. And obviously the main issue is the product quality, and we will obviously be testing that with potential parties all the way through this pilot plant process. And as long as they get the quality specifications that they require, then I don't think there's any issue from going from 2,000 to 10,000 in an orderly fashion.
Yeah, but you've got to be able to do that economically. You've got to be able to make money, I think is my point here. I mean, that's right. For lithium companies, it's been a brutal year. I think it's been especially difficult in Argentina, obviously with what's gone on with the election, the political scene, exchange rate. It's taken a hammering. It's people forget it's a really good mining jurisdiction, or jurisdictions, which states you're in, but these fundamental components of mining in a country, this jurisdictional risk component, that's made it a lot more difficult for you. I mean, how are you handling that? What's your perception of what's going on in Argentina? How's it affecting you?
Touchwood, it hasn't affected us greatly to date. We obviously came into the country in 2016 and President Macri had been elected. So he obviously opened up a lot of business opportunities for foreign investors like us. We're obviously still at that position. We've got a very good relationship with our provincial regulatory bodies, which obviously control the mineral rights in the country. That's the provinces own the mineral rights. So we have a very good relationship with the Mines Department in Salta. They've been giving us all of our approvals in good time. So we've got a very good relationship with them. We don't see that changing, depending on whatever happens with the federal election. But as we've seen, if there is a change of government and what that's causing in terms of currency devaluation, again, doesn't affect us too much. Most of our costs are in US dollars. The chemicals that we buy, which is the largest of the operating costs, is all based in US dollars. Our local employees are paid in local currency. So when there is a devaluation, in the short term, until inflation sort of catches up, it's actually a benefit for us because our US dollar is getting us further than it was previously. So as long as the country doesn't shut down and there's no protectionist policies come into play in the near term, we think it's business as usual, and it will continue being business as usual. And again, quoting our friends at Orocobre who built their project and did a great job at doing that. They did that during the former regime, so we don't think there's any issues that may impact us too greatly to build a project, no matter what the government at the time or whatever government's elected in a few months' time.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I think both parties are talking a good game with regards to mining. So, as you say, touch wood, we'll see what happens there. So let's talk about why investors invest in your business. Okay, they want the share price to appreciate. They want it to grow. We've been talking about some dilutory components here. So, why should current investors, or new investors thinking of investing in you, have reason to be hopeful about what the future looks like in terms of share price appreciation?
Yeah, and we've had some great share price appreciation during the times when lithium was obviously a lot more in favour. But even in recent times, over the last let's say 12 months, we've been able to, have our share price jump substantially based on good announcements, on achieving good milestones.
But
whether that was achieved.
You're done. Your year high is 28 cents. You're sitting around 9 cents at the moment. So I mean, that's what people are going to be looking at, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we think so, and we obviously our job is to try to get it back to those levels as quickly as possible. Even when we announced the Mitsubishi sales agreement back a few months ago, the share price jumped from 9 to 16. Now, those sort of things, obviously, for the short-term retail shareholders, there's milestones that are coming up that can have immediate impact in the share price. But also, if you play a bit of a longer game, starting production and selling product to Mitsubishi from the pilot plant in coming months, getting started on the 2,000 tonne per annum plant, again, another big milestone, and building that over the course of the next 12 to 15 months, we think, the closer we get to production, the more the market will appreciate what we're doing and start valuing us closer to our peers that are above us, which is obviously Orocobre, the main one, but even Lithium Americas, who's in development at the moment, they've got a market cap substantially higher than ours, 3 or 4 times higher than us. So we think there's some share price appreciation to be made based on developing our project further.
But I mean, those are hardly peers, though. You can't compare yourself to Orocobre at this point. I think that's a bit of a leap. And I appreciate there are some good things happening, that you've been active, keeping some things moving. But do you think with the dilution component, with the requirement to raise equity, it's going to be enough to see a meaningful bump? I mean, you need to see a sort of 3 times, 3.5 times bump in your share price today, and that's not going to come from an offtake agreement off the back of a interim, plant, is it?
Well, firstly, let me just say that obviously we've been high share price, but some of our peers, even on the ASX within the spodumene market, they're valued at probably 2 to 2.5 times our value. Now they're probably behind us in terms of development of their projects. So again, it's obviously sometimes you need to be flavour of the month to get that appreciation in the market. But once we start building, and we can show not only retail shareholders but institutional shareholders or potential investors what we're looking to do and how we're achieving that, I think once you get interest in the stock based on what we're doing, it's achievable. Going from $100 million to $200 million market cap in the short term is very much our target and very much something we think we can achieve on the back of moving with those immediate milestones and achieving them in the short term. Right,
okay. Because if I look at people like Millennial Lithium, who seeing great peaks and they've dropped off and they're trying to do deals in Asia, and the share price has been hammered, right? I think the general perception in the marketplace, ASX especially, lithium, there's a lot of white noise. It's all just chatter. But it's out of favor. Is part of your strategy sitting back and hoping that the lithium space recovers, or do you think you're in control of the moving parts?
We can't afford to wait for the lithium market to recover. Obviously, that would be a very good advantage and big advantage for us to do that. But these are the times, in these tough times, that you can develop and build projects, and obviously perhaps don't get the same reward in terms of value as you would have in good times. But we think by doing it now, when the good times do roll back around, hopefully not too far away, that our appreciation can be multiplied based on the work we've done in these leaner times. Now, a lot of companies, like you said, may sit back and wait or put their projects on standby. We're very much focused on, again, using that word, fast-tracking our development, building that 2,000 tonne per annum plant, because like I said, that would put us in the category of a commercial producer, an economic producer and a profitable producer, which gives us cash flow, and it makes us very much more marketable to not only retail shareholders but institutional and much larger funds, because we are going into a space that I think people do realise in the next, you mentioned 2025, the production sort of supply amount and so forth, but in that sort of time frame, and sure, that's probably a lot longer than current shareholders would like to think. But there is a game sort of changing event coming along, and we have to be patient. But when that does come along, and again, we're not sort of, our focus can't be just on near-term share price appreciation. It needs to be on building a business, and that's very much our focus, on building a business that's going to be around for the next 20 years. And we need to be a little bit patient at times, but also at the same time look to maximise value over the longer term, rather than just immediate sort of rewards for existing shareholders. If people believe in us, we know we can achieve it, and when the good times do roll back, we think we can really reward our patient shareholders.
So you're looking for investors to get behind you, not traders.
All shareholders are very good, whatever shareholders they are, but definitely if people can appreciate what we're trying to achieve and have got that bit of patience, we think we can do very well for them, yes.
So what's the only thing that's going to stop you?
Well, obviously securing the finance. As you said, we don't want to be jumping into any dilutionary equity sort of raisings. That's very much last resort. But again, it's sometimes, as I said, you need to take a step back to go a step forward. But it really is just securing that funding. And again, we're reasonably confident that that will happen at some point in time in the near term. But, we have a great relationship with Mitsubishi. We have a great partner with that processing expertise in Argentina. We think we've got the jigsaw pieces. We've been putting them together for the last couple of years. A few more to go, but we really think we can achieve that. So again, I don't think there's anything that will stop us. I don't think I'm being an optimist by saying that. I really do think we have all the jigsaw pieces. We don't even have to we probably even have them numbered, so we know exactly where they go. It's just that taking the time to put them in their right places to allow us to get to where we want to get to.
Right, okay. So you have all the permits that you need for now. Obviously, you'll require further secondary, tertiary permits as you go forward. Message to shareholders is don't worry, we're not distracted by our new acquisition. We're focused on core business. We think the pilot plant has shown us that we can produce, and with this interim plant, we can get into some kind of revenue, whether or not it's economic, but it should show that we can move forward with a 10,000 tonne per annum plant if and when we get that financed.
Yep, our estimates show, that based on current sales prices, that the interim plant will be, a viable proposition. So we think that will really jumpstart us moving forward. But very much agree with all your other comments there and wrapping up. And obviously we're very keen to try to achieve that as quickly as possible.
And are you, just finish off on that because you made the point, are you going to update your PEA financial assessment? I mean, given that PEAs can have a kind of big variance, are you going to update that based on up-to-date numbers?
It's not in the immediate term at the moment. We're very much focused on securing that funding for the 2,000 tonne per annum plant. Once we do that, obviously, if there is a strategic partner involved, we will work together with them on whatever is required to achieve, the outcome for the commercial scale. And if we need to update the PA to a full feasibility, that's what we'll be looking to do.
Brilliant. Jerko, thank you very much for your time today. Honest appraisal of the situation. Appreciate it. We look forward to staying in touch and hearing how you're getting on. Exciting times.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also catch us on our website, cruxinvestor.com, and Cruxcast, our podcast series. Plus, most days you can catch us on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'd love getting your feedback, so please keep that coming, and we'll speak to you again soon.